Good evening, I'm Jeff Lyons. It is Monday night, October the 13th, time for the 14First Alert Weather Show at 9. We stream every night at 9 o'clock, not only to give you a full-blown weather forecast, much more detail than we have time for on TV, but you can ask your questions too, and I'll try to answer those. You can comment in on the 14 News Facebook page, and I'll check those here as we get along in the show. Well, we had a gorgeous day today, and we're going to have another string of those up through Friday before we start to get into a more active pattern. I added an alert day earlier today for the potential for severe weather on Saturday. And leading up to that, we just have great weather. It's going to be clear and cool at night and sunny with highs near 80 through each afternoon. Friday, a few more clouds maybe than sun. And then we get into Saturday. The chances for rain or thunderstorms are at 60% right now. And actually, the weekend has been showing up, at least with a chance of some kind of rainfall for the last couple of days. So we have confidence we'll, at bare minimum, get some rain. Some context here, always important. The Storm Prediction Center has outlined an area where severe weather may occur. Doesn't mean it will happen. It just means that the probability is higher where you see the yellow. And you'll notice too, this is a big area, excuse me, for the potential for severe weather. It is dry and dusty out there. Anyhow, the tri-state is right here on the northern fringe, and you see it dips all the way down into Arkansas and Missouri, and it's entirely possible that the severe weather threat could shift south or away from the tri-state and occur farther down within this shaded area. So, you know, it's not time to freak out and think tornado outbreak or anything like that. This is simply a higher probability we could see a few severe thunderstorms. Damaging winds and hail would be the likely severe weather threats. Looking ahead, it's going to be driven by a cold front that will come in out of the plains Friday night and early Saturday. And our best chance right now for rain and maybe some thunderstorms will start up on Saturday afternoon and continue into the evening, possibly later into the evening, and then taper off on Sunday as the cold front then clears the tri-state. And again, these timings will likely change by a few hours between now and Saturday. So at least at this point, don't set your watch by this, but just know that Saturday would be a day we would likely have some thunderstorms, mainly in the afternoon and evening. And that time of day typically favors thunderstorm development. It's warmer typically, and things tend to get rolling when the temperature goes up. Our rainfall amounts have bounced around. If you were watching yesterday, the GFS early in the day started at 1 inch of rain, then it pulled back to ½ an inch. Now it's a little over 1 inch. The European is a little stingier with the rainfall. After we get that front through here, it is going to cool back down to near the normal for this time of the year. So the 80s aren't going to last too much longer, but we will work in a few nice days. All right, here on the Weather Show at 9, we have time to talk a little bit more about the severe weather setup. So I wanted to do that. I'll just kind of walk you through some of the other parameters or ingredients that we look for in determining a severe weather threat. And one of them is the low-level jet stream. Now, these are winds at about 5,000 feet up, 850 millibars. Anytime we see anything over, 50, 60 miles an hour, that kind of puts our radar up. Some of the tornado outbreaks or tornado days that we've had, that low-level jet has been closer to 90 or 100. So when we look at it, and again, this is off the surface, we're looking at maybe 30 to 50 knot winds there on Saturday morning. But interestingly, the low-level jet shifts to the east by Saturday afternoon. And remember, these ingredients, at least in order to generate severe weather, typically all have to line up or at least be pretty close. You can have a ton of energy in the atmosphere. Nothing happens because there's nothing to act on it. Same with a low-level jet. We can have a screaming low-level jet up there, but if there's nothing for it to interact with, you're not going to get severe weather. So anyway, the bottom line here with a low-level jet, there will be some stronger winds aloft and some gusty winds at the surface, but at least as of today, it doesn't look like things are really lining up to enhance that risk. All right, let's talk about wind shear. The shear is the change of wind speed or direction with height. And in a severe weather scenario, you would want the wind to back or change with height, or veer rather. And anyway, it will change direction and speed with height. That can enhance rotating thunderstorms, rotation, hail development, and damaging winds. And once again, we're really not seeing that parameter lighting up any of our charts tonight. The dew point it'll get more humid out there, like 60s. Typically, we're looking for 60 or greater to support thunderstorm activity. You can have thunderstorms with a lower dew point, but the higher would increase the odds that they would get going. And right now, the dew point looks minimal until Saturday night, and this would be attributable to rain. You know, once the rain starts falling, then your dew point is going to basically match the temperature, which will be around 70 to 75. Supercell threat index as of today, not really getting too charged up, with the possible exception of the far southern edge of the tri-state. This would be more toward Hopkinsville, but maybe Madisonville, you know, the typical Hopkins, Muhlenberg, Ohio County trio down there always seems to be kind of right in that lane. And then nothing through Sunday. And the tornado threat, again, nothing really lighting up the chart either. It is going to be windy. We will have a somewhat of a pressure gradient building there on Saturday. We could see some winds maybe of 25, 30 miles an hour as these come through. Again, minimal. We're not looking at you know, like 60, 70 mile an hour winds as we've sometimes seen on these in advance of a big outbreak. So the bottom line here is I think it will be a marginal threat, you know, probably not a whole lot of severe weather based on what we're looking at today. Now, things can change, so I reserve the right to change the forecast, which we often do leading into big events. So the main takeaway today is just keep Saturday on your radar, keep an eye on it, but there's nothing imminent. We're not seeing anything on here that's like, oh my gosh, you know, red lights flashing and flags waving and so forth. It's just a cold front coming in, which hasn't happened a lot so far here in the last couple of months. All right, the current temps now are in the 60s across the eastern half of the country, nice and cool out there. We will continue to drop down into the lower 50s tonight. We did get down to 48 this morning. Now, it's not going to get quite that cool, but it'll feel nice out there. Very low humidity again. Our high today hit 77, and that was off of that 48-degree low that I mentioned, which, by the way, is normal for this time of the year. That makes 3 in a row now. That's a lucky streak there of 77s, and of course, no rain added into the mix yet. We're still kind of coasting from last Monday and Tuesday's nearly 3 inches of rain. So our month's still at a surplus. Our average temp still slightly warmer than normal, or actually moderately above normal there, 4.5 degrees. For tomorrow, upper 70s again and sunshine, basically a copy of what we had today. And the rain that you're looking at in the plains here is still being held off by high pressure over the Ohio Valley. So we really don't have anything to rock the boat just yet. And even our tropical situation, not threatening to the U.S. This is Tropical Storm Lorenzo, now with 50 mile an hour winds, expected to remain a tropical storm and kind of boomerang back toward the African coast later this week. We have high pressure basically all the way through Thursday, creating a wall here that won't allow any weather to move in. Once that high pressure starts to weaken and moves on, then we start to see changes in our weather, and even cloud cover is going to be in very short supply for the next few days. So lots of sunshine, very few worries in the weather. The GFS then gets us up here to that cold front coming in on Friday, Saturday, and you see it kind of sweeping in with showers and storms. And note too that we're showing the heavier returns, or simulated radar returns, reflectivity, showing up down in Arkansas. And remember that outlook was very large, so like I said, it could wind up being something that really affects more of the southern and mid-Mississippi Valley than here specifically. The GFS still advertising 1.3 inches of rain, while the European model is a little later with the onset of the rain on Saturday. It too, though, brings rain through and then holds it into at least Sunday afternoon before moving it out. So that's the key difference between the two models, that and the fact the European very dry. It actually mirrors what the GFS was showing yesterday for potential rainfall. And again, these are guidance numbers, just an average or an idea, whether we're looking at heavy rain, moderate light, and right now we're looking at light to moderate rainfall over the region. You can sleep tight tonight. It's going to be clear and cool, 53. Tomorrow up to 81 for the high. And then over the next 7 days, we have that first alert weather day on Saturday, and that's really our only concern on the horizon. Still some lingering rainfall Sunday. The temperature outlook keeps us well above normal through the 23rd of the month, and wetter than normal too, so we will likely enter into a little more active pattern. I'm going to give Tesla Raleigh a double run. Now, if you're watching last night, we had Tesla on there doing a little rail fanning. I think that's the spur that runs over to the salvage yard here behind the station, and then dead ends there at the Greenway on Evansville's west side there. It's on Florence Street or somewhere. Flegeltab, I think, is the name of the place. Anyway, William Raleigh sent that in. So thanks, William. And I'm checking your Facebook comments right now. We'll see if we have any concerns on here that we can address. And let's see, Angie Wampler says, we plan camping. Should we cancel? We're going to Lawrenceville, Illinois. I wouldn't cancel anything just yet, Angie. Let's wait a couple more days. Also, Lawrenceville, you're going to be a little farther north. Still, the rain will be a concern. Camping, probably not a hoot when it rains. But that, let's just keep an eye on it. Have Plan B ready. Maybe you stay at, the motel there in lieu of the camp. Or I don't know, maybe you're, an all-weather camper. All right, William Betty Wright, hope we keep this type of weather cool. Yeah, I do too. Of course, it's going to get a lot colder, the winter's just around the corner, so we'll have to see how things actually shake out. Okay, oh my, lots of questions here. We got Jeff Miller saying hello from Sava. And William Raleigh just got back from West Virginia area tonight. Saw Tesla last night. Okay, well, you got to see it again tonight. All right, Paula Schaefer says, good evening. Amanda Spainhoward, supposed to go to Lark Ranch in Montgomery Saturday. Ugh. And I'm assuming when you say Montgomery, you mean in Davies County in southern Indiana. Yeah, you're probably going to get some rain. Sorry about that. But, it may time out such that it won't be a big pain for you. Paula Schaefer, maybe the rain will chase away the stink bugs. Not a chance, not a chance. Those things it's going to be the stink bugs and the cockroaches. After the end of the world, there'll be those lingering around. Let's see. How bad will the weather be Saturday afternoon? Well, that's a big question mark right now, Ricky. We're still, looking. The Storm Prediction Center has this outlook for possible severe weather, or at least some strong thunderstorms. Rain looks like a good bet. The severe, let's kind of see how, we'll let it ride here a couple days and see what materializes. But, right now it's just too soon to really nail down whether it's just going to be a damaging wind threat, a hail threat, or a tornado threat, or any of those. We're not really seeing the tornado thing, at least not today's models. Let's see, Jeanette Rice, hopefully Saturday will not turn severe. Well, yeah, that's the hope. We're never really rooting for severe weather around here, but we always like to keep keep you posted, heads up, if we think it might be a possibility. Will Duncan, will we have clouds at this event? Yes, we will. William Raleigh's been chasing steam trains. All right. I didn't know, I see these things about this big boy, this Union Pacific huge locomotive that tours around. I don't know where it is right now, and I don't know which steam locomotives you've been looking for, but yeah, there's something else. I remember 1976, the Freedom Train. Now, see, you got to be a certain age to remember that, but anyway, it was a bicentennial year, and they brought the Freedom Train into Evansville. And the Freedom Train was this steam locomotive, and then they had a passenger consist or train behind it, but instead of passengers, they had basically American history. So you went in, you know, in 1776, and you walked all the way through and learned your American history. And at that time, there were still railroad tracks down Division Street, you know, where the Lloyd Expressway is today. Well, back then it was this really, it was an eyesore. You know, you had railroad tracks, street running, right down Division. You had old warehouses and, you know, bars, and sounds like a great place. But anyhow, when the Freedom Train came in, it was coming, I guess, from somewhere south, Nashville or somewhere. So it came over the bridge in Henderson, and then it came into Howell Yards, which is on Evansville's west side, from the south. And so we were going to go out there and watch it. And my dad, who grew up, you know, when they still had steam engines, he knew what he was doing. So we went right up to the grade crossing. We're standing there with our cameras, everything. And that thing, it felt like it was going to suck us in. It like went by, and then smoke and soot and stuff blowing up from the ballast, you know, on the train tracks. And then it came across Barker Avenue. Back then the trains had to, there's a Y, so the train had to go out toward Bainey Camp Road and you know, Mount Vernon, and get far enough out, and then switched it, and then they backed it down Division Street. So it went over the Singing Bridge and by the old L&N terminal, and then they backed it up Division Street almost all the way to Highway 41, and then came in. There were railroad tracks that came in right by where the community center is today. I think that's right. Yeah, the community center is kind of on the back 40 there. It'd be next to the Curtis building today. There were rail lines there. That was a long story, wasn't it? Nothing to do with weather, but a fond memory of a steam train and the Freedom Train. Let's see. Peggy Eaton graduated in '76. Well, that was a good year. It sure was. William Raleigh says, oh, in Western Maryland, okay, the Norfolk and Western. Gotcha. Okay. And yeah, so that the Freedom Train really made an impression, though. It was really spectacular when it came in and going through it and everything. And I live where I can see the trains, and sometimes every now and then you'll see something unusual. The last unusual thing I saw was a circus train, and I think Barnum and Bailey, Ringling Brothers, it was one of the two big circus outfits, had a circus train that came in. I don't remember if there were animals on it or not, but anyway, it came in, and we went down and had a look at that. There's really no punchline to this story. There wasn't a clown chasing it or anything, but I do think they had some animals on there. Pretty unusual. All right, let's get to Science Corner here. You don't want to hear me ramble on all night, or maybe you do. I don't know. What's on NBC? Oh, yeah, The Voice is on over there. You got to see who's going to win that. Or is it America's Got? It's whatever that show is. Reba's on it. It's The Voice. Okay, so we are putting together the fall-winter outlook that will air on November the 6th. All of us are working on it, Arden and Byron and Michael and I. And one of the things that we're expecting is, instead of El Nino like we had last year, we're expecting La Nina to develop. At least that's what the Climate Prediction Center is telling us, or the El Nino forecast division of the Weather Service. And what La Nina means is that the warm water moves offshore. We get cool water right up here in the Eastern Pacific along the South American coast. And what that typically does is gives us a wet and sometimes stormy winter with warmer conditions there to the south of us in the Tennessee Valley. And so we, of course, as part of our research here for the special, we've looked back at how different types of winters have fared here in the tri-state. And if you want to look at neutral to La Nina, because we're actually in the neutral pattern now, we're transitioning from El Nino over toward La Nina. So the blues and the grays are your snows there. And we have had a few that were notable, you know, where we had more than a foot of snow in La Nina years. But they're fewer and farther between. Back in the 90s, we had a big one there on, I think that was 1996, actually. If you're curious about how La Nina years have stacked up with snowfall, I can take you all the way back to 2000, or back 25 years. And the biggest La Nina year snow that we had was a little over 15. I think it was 18 and a half in 2000-2001, that winter. We also, if you'll recall, in 2000, we had the Owensboro tornado on the 3rd of January. So cold season tornado in a La Nina year. 2010, 2011, we had a little over a foot of snow, and then since that time, our La Nina years haven't generated much. And remember, these are just La Nina years, so you're not going to see last year's 19.5 inches of snow because that was an El Nino year. So anyway, we are factoring that into our snow projection, and we will have our numbers ready for you to look at on November the 6th. We're also looking back at the tornado, the November 6th tornado from 2005. I'm looking at, it's kind of rude of me just to pick up my phone here. I'm looking at your other questions and comments. Zach Seats hopes and prays the storms don't get severe. Me too. And yeah, I think William Raleigh got a picture of the Freedom Train at the Roundhouse area at Pigeon Creek, Wansford Yard probably. So, all right. Well, how about that? We got some rail fanning in. You got to hear an old windy story from me about the Freedom Train, and we're looking toward La Nina, or at least a transition toward La Nina this winter. So still a lot of blanks to fill in the forecast, and we will be working on that here in the next few weeks and have that for you on Thursday, November 6th. In the meantime, I appreciate you watching here tonight. Please stay safe, and I will see you on 14 News at 10 o'clock.